Welcome, everyone, to episode 81 of the Missing Pieces podcast. If this is your first time watching or listening, as this is available everywhere that podcasts are available, my name is Greg, and this is where I sit down and I discuss my life, Lego, and anything else that's on my mind. But this week, things are going to be a little bit different. This week, instead of it being about my life and all the things that are on my mind, it's going to be what was on your mind, because last week I threw out a question to you that I was hoping I'd get some feedback on. And the YouTube crowd, you guys came through like crazy, and I'm so appreciative of it. The Apple Podcast audience, I'm very disappointed in you. I'm going to have some words with you later, but for now, let's talk about the question and the answers to this question that I threw out last week, which is, what is the difference between collecting and hoarding? I gave my response to this in last week's episode. If you want to hear what that was, I think it's like at the 40 to 42 minute range, somewhere in there. You can go back and listen to it. But this is something that I've thought about, and a question that was actually posed to me through a community tab post that I did. And I was like, what is the difference between a collector and a hoarder? And I was like, what do you guys think after giving my response? And I was so impressed with your feedback on this. In fact, this whole entire episode is going to be your responses to this. And I thought it'd be fun just to kind of read through these to see what you guys had to say. And then I'll have some commentary at the end. So I'm not going to be interrupting each of your comments here or your feedback. I'd just like to read through these so we can kind of start thinking about this question. And maybe if you are a collector, or you think you're a collector, or maybe if you're a hoarder or don't know you're a hoarder, maybe this will illuminate that a little bit for you, and you can start thinking about your life and your collecting, because I think deep down, a lot of us Lego people, we are collectors, whether it be in Lego or other things, or maybe we collect multiples of things. Maybe it's been a lifelong pursuit of collecting. I feel like there's a certain type of person that collects. And that type of person can very easily go into the hoarder camp as well when things start getting a little out of hand. But let's read these responses that you guys have here, and let's make this a thing. I'm excited about this. These are in no particular order. I just picked out people that responded to this, and I was just so impressed by the feedback. You guys are awesome, dude. Thank you so much for this. But before I get too carried away with thank yous, let's actually start reading them. Starting with Rex the Reviewer. He says, I think there's a big difference between collecting and hoarding. Collecting is you getting stuff that makes you happy and provides some value to you. And that's sort of what I was saying. I said I wasn't going to interrupt these, but I kind of used the word value in my description last week as well. He says, I think hoarding is keeping stuff that has no value to you, impacts you and your family in a negative way. Next response comes from Lego or Jedi Lego Arts. It says, I reckon hoarding is not being able to let go of anything. It's created by fear and brings you unhappiness. Collecting is selecting more precisely and brings pleasure, but can be addictive. Very, very addictive. Next response comes from Canadian, who says, I personally believe the turning point from collector to hoarder is if you aren't fully able to enjoy the product, and if, when you look at it, it doesn't give you happy memories or will never use it again. You should collect something because you love it, and if you lose that passion, but you still find yourself holding on to it, it's hoarding. Next feedback comes from Locked Door. It says, hoarding versus collecting is a fine line that I've been crossing back and forth over recently. So this is a personal experience. To preface this, I collect hockey jerseys and Lego primarily. On one hand, I get enjoyment out of getting new stuff, and I live for the chase, yes. But on the other hand, I often feel guilty about some of my spending habits, and the reasoning behind why I collect the things I do. For me, the line is crossed into hoarding when there's no longer emotion or satisfaction behind the collection. Like you, Greg, I thrive off nostalgia and memories of days of my past, and I like to encapsulate those feelings in my collections, which really helps me trim some of the fat. I love everything about this comment, and I love the person, like the personal nature that you put in this, so I thank you for that, because I know it's hard to kind of put yourself out there, and I've seen comments about this, so I just want to take a moment here to thank anyone that put like their own life out there for us all to judge, I suppose, which I hope we're not doing. Let's not do that. But yeah, you make some great points here. Let's go on to the next one, though. This one's from Brick Therapy. As I say that, I'm not going to interrupt it. I can't resist. I'm sorry. This says, to me, there are a couple of big differences between collecting and hoarding. When collecting, you use or display with enjoyment. Hoarding is when items are lost amongst other items, buried under other things, and usually forgotten about. Hoarders also cannot get rid of items, even those forgotten about. A collector may at times have a difficult time getting rid of items they usually will when needed. I collected Star Wars figures from 1979 through the 90s. Darn, I am showing my age. I sold them a couple of years ago when we were in dire need of money. I got my enjoyment out of them and passed them along to another collector who will take great care of them. Greg, you are such an amazing... I'm not going to read that part, but thank you for the kind words. And don't worry about dating yourself or aging yourself. Not a problem. Next one comes from Gold Puffin, who says, the way I see it, hoarding is a difficulty in letting go of possessions, and collecting is an intentional decision to acquire and accumulate particular things that you find interesting or enjoyable to own. So one is about a failure to let go, and the other is about intentional acquisition. But a more important difference is that collecting brings pleasure or joy to the collector and to others who they allow access to the collection. Hoarding brings misery, as there is no value in retaining the objects, only fear of letting them go. I think this is pretty much the same as the definitions you gave in the video and to what a lot of other people are saying in the comments. What's interesting is that sometimes collecting can start to feel like hoarding when the collection becomes unmanageable and starts to consume more time and energy than it is worth in terms of the enjoyment that you get from it. How about that as a response? Whew, that was good. Next one is from the Journal of Scots. It says, collecting versus hoarding topic. I've been in the LEGO community following content for a few years and can definitely see unhealthy collector and hoarders out there. One of my goals this year was to make it healthy. Recycle boxes, break down organized bricks so they are usable, work on cleaning up and being selective with displayed sets, and then when making videos on the journey. Hashtag organize your LEGO 2021. In addition, this applies to other areas in life. I guess a win this week is my semi-annual clothes closet clean out yesterday. I only allow one stored bin of clothes. As I cleaned out a closet, if a shirt goes 1+ years and doesn't have costume value or is getting worn out, it's gone. I like this because it kind of he's practicing what he preaches, and we're kind of like, I think, in the same place here with getting things organized. But thank you for the feedback on that. Next one is from Throw to the Wolves. I told you guys there's a lot of these. I love it. Next, he says, hey Greg, hope you're doing well through these tough times. For me, the difference between collecting and hoarding is collecting is having a group of things that you enjoy and you can share with your friends whoever you want, and hoarding is just letting it pile up and have no joy. I watched the video where you revealed where you were actually hiding your Lego boxes after you flattened them, and I thought, man, do I really want to have all these things that are just taking up space? At the moment, mine are put in storage, and they are more, and the more they are gone, the less I think about them. Same for me, but I still like to keep a few that have crazy artwork on them. Next one comes from Chris Robinson. It says, I think the difference between hoarding and collecting is an organization scheme and whether or not you use the stuff you're hoarding/collecting. When you say hoarding, I automatically think of the dragon Smaug from The Hobbit sitting on piles of gold that he never spends. Ooh, Lord of the Rings detector's coming out right there. Next one's from Thomas Guy. It says, to me, hoarder tends to have the attitude of, well, I can't possibly throw this out. One day I might need it, which is something my dad often says about old rusty tools in the garage. Whether a collector is someone who has things in order to cherish having them and to not be afraid to get rid of them in case one day they might need them. And next one and last one comes from Andy Yu. It says, even though collecting and hoarding can be separate things, I do believe one can lead to another. You collect things when you have an interest or hobby and feel the need to own certain things of those said things. This sounds like a lawyer wrote this. Collectors like to showcase what they own proudly by displaying them around their space. However, at a certain point when they feel they don't have adequate space for their collection and need to slip them into any nook and cranny they can find, then I feel the dangers of hoarding begins. Anyone else feel like he's talking about you right now? For me, my interests are all over the place. From when I was little up to now, I collect a lot of things like Pokemon cards, model cars, action figures, and recently, the past year, Lego. In some sense, it does feel a bit like hoarding, where I simply don't have the space to display everything, and I can't enjoy as much as when I store things in bins and drawers, which eventually get filled up fast. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy what I collect. It's just more difficult when it's not in view and I have to go find it. That's my insight for now. Wow, I can't figure my need to make long comments like this every time I do. Don't worry, I won't apologize. Don't you ever for this time. Keep up the content. You're doing great. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that responded there. That were all of the responses to what is the difference between collecting and hoarding. And I think there was a lot of common things here between all of these. A lot of them seem to focus on finding value in that thing you collect. Is the thing that you're collecting bringing you joy? Do you have it on display? That was a thing too. Are other people able to see it? Are you proud of it? If that's what you are, I think you're a collector, and it seems to be that's what it is. It's about getting use out of it or enjoying it. When it turns into a hoard or hoarding mentality, it's I collect everything and anything because you never know if you're going to use it and you might need it someday. You have it stored pretty much anywhere in a disorganized fashion. I've always said that a hoarder is just a disorganized collector. But also, you collect things that aren't necessarily in your wheelhouse just because it's something to hold on to, and it starts to negatively impact your life in a way with space or maybe financially or just cleanliness in general. Like, I'm sure we've all at some point seen the show Hoarders. I think those are very extreme cases where you have like newspapers and, soda bottles and whatever else, like just trash. But I think there are people that are kind of on the line of being a collector and hoarder, and I kind of feel like I'm there a little bit. I oftentimes hold on to things just because you don't know if you're going to need them in the future. My collection certainly isn't organized, and most of it isn't on display. I tend to disagree a little bit with having to have things on display for it to count as a collection, because you can have baseball cards or something, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. You can have those all nicely organized and put away and still have a collection and not have it be a hoard. But I do think collectors tend to value their stuff more. You don't sleep on top of your collection typically. You don't walk on it. It doesn't take up all this space that you have to like push your collection out of the way to get to other parts of your rooms. That's hoarding. But man, I do like just analyzing it for myself. I don't know how you feel after me reading those. And this would be a great feedback for next week. Like, where do you think you fall on this? Because I don't think it's cut and dry. I don't think, like, most people probably aren't going to admit they're a hoarder, but like some people are probably like somewhere in the middle like I am, where maybe you have a storage room, like you have an organized space, but you have a storage room that's packed to the brim with Lego stuff or whatever it is that you collect, and it's like, oh man, this I feel like is negatively affecting me. It's not providing me value, and I'm on a quest right now in my life to find those things that aren't providing value to me and getting rid of them. And very much the way that we described here with going through your closet like Journal of the Scots is doing, and being like, okay, I haven't worn this thing in forever. It's taking up space in my closet. Is this serving me? And I think that is a good way to determine what you should keep. Is this serving me? And it doesn't have to be like an active thing where it's serving you every day, like an alarm clock serves you, or like your stove serves you, or your refrigerator. It can be something like, does this bring me some type of joy? And it could be just something that you look at and it's like, oh, I remember when I got this. Although that gets a little scary too, because you could be like, yeah, I remember when I got this can of Coca-Cola. I was hanging out with my friends and we had Cokes to drink, and it meant so much to me. I had such a great time that night that I held on to this can, and I'm collecting this can, even though it's the only can I collect, but it's among all these other things. I'm telling you, it's difficult, man. It's very easy when it's just like you have one thing. But again, I told you guys earlier that a lot of us collectors, we collect multiple things, and we sometimes move from one thing to another, and over the years we just keep holding on to all this stuff. And I have a little bit of that. Like, I have a video game collection. I have a toy collection from my childhood. I've got a Lego collection, obviously. Sports cards. And that's where I find myself getting into trouble right now, and why this was so handy having this episode this week. Last few weeks I've been watching Builder Bud's videos, and he's getting into collecting sports cards, and it's given me like that itch that I had back when I was a kid to like go back into that world again. And then I happened to also go to a yard sale, and I think what you put out there, or what your eyes seek, you will find. And I found some Upper Deck baseball cards from 1993. They were $2, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab these. And then I started looking through them, and I started looking at the prices, and I found a couple that were worth something. Not a lot, because they're not in great condition or whatever. They're not graded, but it's kind of like biting me a little bit, and I'm like, ooh, maybe I'll get into card collecting, because there is like that little bit of a lottery thing there. I love the hunt, which is why I love Lego yard sales. I love clearance for that reason. Like, I just like the hunt, and that hunt doesn't get any more powerful than when you're open up a box or a pack of sports cards, whatever sport you're into, and you're looking through there for that special card, like a rookie card or like an insert or whatever. And I'm trying to resist, but YouTube is not helping me. We've talked about the rabbit hole before of YouTube, and I've gotten drawn into this because I watched a couple of videos, and now YouTube's like, you don't like Lego videos anymore, trust us, what you want to see are these card videos. And I'm like, you are right, I must click. So I started watching these things. I'm watching guys go out searching for like 2-year-old videos, people searching for 2018 Topps baseball cards, like going to all these different stores. I'm watching this live stream of this guy opening up pack after pack after pack of cards, boxes of cards. And I'm just like, oh man, I must resist. One thing I do like about sports card collecting versus Lego is that it's so much more contained. I always wish that my hobby wasn't as big as what Lego is. Like I wish I collected stamps, or my father-in-law collects pocket knives, or coins, or cards. Or like you could have $1,000 worth of sports cards looks very different than $1,000 worth of Lego boxes, and it would be so much better. But from an investment standpoint, Lego probably is a better investment than cards. Like if you buy sets cheap and then you just keep them sealed and sit for 5, 10, 20 years, that's probably going to be worth a lot more than that random sports card that you got, I would imagine, unless you got really lucky. And there's so many factors in the world of sports cards. Like, you get this guy's rookie card and he's like really hot right now, but then he gets injured and then he like that's the end of him, or something happened in his personal life, like he goes and kills someone or the worst case scenario, and then your card's worthless, this thing you've been sitting on forever. Lego seems to be a little more stable than that. Like you collected a Star Wars set from 2003, it's probably gonna be worth something more than like a 2003 card, unless it's like a LeBron James rookie card or something like that. But I know we're getting way off into the bushes here, into the world of card collecting, and that certainly isn't what this channel is about. I won't lie though, it did cross my mind to make a new channel called Carditect, where I just start opening up cards. But I think what I'm gonna do, I need to just have like a hobby channel or something. Maybe Greg's World just become like my hobby channel where I can just do wherever I want. And it would be my dream, I guess, that if I could do enough sports card stuff that it would almost like kind of like pay for itself. But I feel like that'd be very difficult with the prices that I've been seeing. And this is like a really hot thing right now. So it's probably a bad time to get into it. But it's just drawn me in, and I've gotten like really interested in it. What are the things, I'm going to throw this question out to you as well. So let me know where you fall on the spectrum of collector versus hoarder. I'd love to hear from the hoarders. Not so much the collectors, because you're like, oh yes, I have all my things organized in a very orderly fashion, and I am certainly not a hoarder. I want to hear from those people that are on the fringe. I want to hear from people that are worse off than I am, and you're like, dude, like I'm watching your podcast right now at my desk, and there's literally no space around me. Like I am completely flush with whatever it is I collect, and it's like it's destroying me. If you feel confident enough putting that out there, I know again it can feel scary, but you're just a random user on the internet. No one's going to track this back to you. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd like to hear like why you're in that position of being a hoarder. Is it because you don't have the ambition to like clean up? Is it just too far gone that you feel like you can't get there? Is it really something like in your mind where you're like, I just really can't let these things go? Like the people that are really rough, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to know what's going on in your life. Maybe we can give you some encouragement. Maybe in watching this or listening to this, you're like, you know what? I want to be a collector. I'm going to be one of these people that these guys are describing, where you can actually let things go. And maybe find one thing to let go, because I think that's how it starts. And once you realize, like this is what I realized with my Lego boxes, because this is a bit of a hoarding mentality, I think. When I started flattening my boxes, even though I didn't throw them away, my life didn't change at all, right? Not having those boxes. Like before I was like, I got to keep the tape on there. Everything has to be perfect. I want to make sure I had the boxes with no damage. When I flattened those boxes down and threw them all in a big cardboard box, whether they're sitting in that room or not, I don't feel any different. My life is unchanged. Like having it, not having it. Like if I walked in that room and like the whole place is empty, I'd be a little upset, because like I put a lot of time and money into collecting all that stuff. But the boxes are the most meaningless thing. It's just a volume sucker. You know what I mean? So like I feel like I can let that go. I really do have an attachment to my childhood Lego though. Like I don't have any boxes for my Lego sets back then, because my parents weren't like me where it's like, oh, I got to hold everything. They were just like, oh, you got a Lego set, cool, enjoy it. And then I'm like, I'm tearing it apart and building something of my own. But I like those, just looking at the pieces and the minifigs and stuff would take me back. And again, I think nostalgia plays a big role in my life, in the same way that Locked Door was describing there. And that nostalgia can be for a lot of things, and it can get dangerous. I think the word addicting came up in there. But I guess you gotta find some balance, which is the thing that I struggle with most in life. And the last thing that I probably need to do is develop another hobby of collecting or whatever. Maybe I should collect digital cards, but I think you just got to do what you enjoy. And if you have multiple collections, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. I would say the thing that came out of this the most, and I think the advice that you can take with you, regardless of where you're at on this, and so many people mention this, is collect the things that make you happy. Be proud of it. Get find value in it, get enjoyment out of it, have it on display or have it somewhere where it's like you know where it is and you can look at it, or you can stare at it on your wall or on your shelf and just enjoy the heck out of it. If you find yourself slipping into that place where it's like, this is actually a burden for me, which is where I'm kind of at with this Lego collection. Like the storing of Lego it's been difficult with the amount of stuff that we purchased, which I know is like a first world problem. But I don't want to live that way. I want my place to be orderly. I want it to be kind of minimalist. I don't want to be crowded with Lego boxes. That's where I was in my old studio. It was, shelves everywhere with all of my sets on there, and I thought it looked cool. But man, I really felt like the walls are coming in on me, because they literally were. And I like this much better. I just feel like I have space, and that makes me happy. So moral of the story, do what makes you happy. Find that within yourself somehow, and just strive to do the things you love in life. And if you feel like it's getting out of hand, try to nip it early before it gets too bad. You don't want to end up on the show Hoarders like I was talking about earlier with just trash and stuff everywhere that you can't even make sense of. Other things this week outside of that, I asked a question to you guys last week that I thought was kind of an interesting one. If you had $100, what would be the thing that you would buy that could change your life? And I'll read these responses that I got. It wasn't nearly as plentiful as it was for the collecting versus hoarding, but it was interesting to see what people said, and I'll tell you what I think I would buy. First one comes from Tracy. She says, I always appreciate the podcast because it makes me think, what I could spend $100 on that would improve my life? Right now, it'll be some new outfits for my future career as a teacher, which I'll be starting in the fall. I don't have a position yet, but teacher clothes will put me in the right mindset as I start interviews and do the legwork to work toward that career. I'm working on this at the moment, and that it was good to think about it from the perspective of what can I spend $100 on to change my life. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, have you ever felt like when you changed your clothing that you just feel different? Like if you put a suit on if you're a guy, or you put a nice dress on or nice outfit on, don't you just feel different? Like you hold yourself different? Whereas if you're wearing like shorts and a sweatshirt, you just kind of feel like a bum. Yeah, I felt that way before, and you feel like more important. So I think I definitely could see that one. The next one comes from Padawan Bricks. It says, honestly, with $100, I would get my screen fixed on my phone. It always bothers me to film a video just looking at the cracks. See, that would be something. You spend a lot of time on your phone, you get your screen fixed, that's going to really positively impact your life. Next one's from Paul, and this one's a little bit longer one, but he says if he had $100, he'd put it in his account so he can add it to be reunited with his girlfriend once international air travel resumes. Reunion with $100? I think that's cool. Next one comes from Krishan. Hopefully I'm saying that right. He says, I would use it to buy a capture card because I want to start making gaming videos. You start a business, you make that gaming video, goes viral, boom, your $100 turns into $20 million. Next one is from Jim, and he says, with $100, I'd buy my wife a dozen roses. Oh, that could pay off in spades. He says, she does so much for us and we cannot show her enough love. Plus, on the other topic, she puts up reluctantly with my Lego hoarding. Oh, we could hear from Jim next week on his Lego hoarding and how bad it is. But for me, like I was thinking about this a little bit. $100, what would you buy that could massively improve your life? And for me, I think it would be some type of appliance or tool that would do something that you do every day, but do it quicker. Like, say, here's an example. Say you shave your face every day with like a shaving cream and a razor, and it takes time and it's messy and stuff. What if you spent $100 on an electric razor that is sitting there charging, waiting for you? So you come out and you're like, and within 2 minutes you put that thing back on the charger and it's ready for the next day. Something like, I think the $100 that I'd want to spend would be something that would save me a little bit of time each day. Something that makes my life a little bit faster or a little bit quicker. It's hard to think of like one thing in particular. I guess you'd have to kind of go through your day. And this is how I think inventions start. You're like, what I could really use is this thing that would wash my clothes for me instead of me hand washing them. Washing machine, dishwasher, like a remote starter for your car for the winter time if you park outside, so you don't have to go out and like scrape your car off and it's nice and warm when you get in. Those kinds of things is what I immediately think of. I'm going to throw that question back out again for week 2 here. What's one thing, don't steal any of mine, but maybe along those lines, like what's one tool that you could bring into your life that would make your life better? As much as like roses for the wife, I feel like that one is like, that's like spending $100 to get like $1,000 of value if you can put a dollar sign on that. But it's something fun to think about. I think about occasionally. I feel like I saw that in Reddit once. Like someone was like, what could you spend the money on? And another thing that I was thinking of too would be some type of book, not like a novel, but like a life-changing book that you read. And you wouldn't even need $100 for this. In fact, you could probably go to your library and do it for free. But like maybe like a self-help book that made you think about the world differently, or something that you read that was just like so profound that it changes your life forever. That would be something too. That would even be better than saving 30 seconds a day from shaving or whatever. What's that thing? I'm throwing it out there to you guys. I'm trying to think of what else happened this week, though. Kind of getting off of the feedback. We had a bit of an incident. Cody hit let's talk about cars a little bit. I've been vehicle hunting for a while. I spent a solid day this week, probably 2 when you add up all like the research I was doing, just test driving a few cars and trying to see if I was happy with the deals and stuff like that. And I'm not like overly thrilled with what I've come across. It's been a situation where I love the Subaru that we have. We bought it brand new in 2013. We paid it off really quickly. We've owned it outright. I haven't done any work to it. It's just been a fantastic vehicle. And when I went to trade it in, I found a vehicle that I liked. It wasn't my first choice though, because the vehicle that I like, you pretty much can't buy. Like they're gone. They're out of. You can't. I talked to a dealer. He said I might be able to get one for you in 2022. So I was like, okay, let me see what else I can get. Because after I did a ton of research saying like this is the one I want, I had it all picked out, the trim level, the everything. They're like, nah, not happening. So maybe talk to your dealership before you go crazy. I tried a couple different vehicles out, found one that I kind of liked, found another one that I was like, yeah, it's not for me. But both of them offered me a pretty low amount for my trade. And for me, I felt like my car is worth more to me than what they're willing to give it to me for. Plus, then I'd be putting out a ton of outlay for this vehicle, plus paying sales tax and fees and all that other stuff. And I'm just like, maybe I just hold it. We've survived with this smaller vehicle. Like I've been wanting to upgrade just to have more space, because it's like we bought our Subaru when it was just Cody and myself and Roxy Bear. Now we got Clarkman and we're doing like family trips and like the whole thing's loaded up in the back. It'd just be nice to have something a little bit bigger. But is it worth what you're putting out to get that thing? And that's what you need to determine anytime you're spending money. This is from a profound book that I read years ago that changed the trajectory of my life, that you could spend your $100 on and still have probably $85 left over. But it's called Your Money or Your Life. And the premise of that book is that when you go to spend money on something, anything, say it's what's your favorite thing to eat that you go to get, McDonald's, Starbucks, whatever, is the life energy that you gave up working. So say you make $10 an hour, just to keep things simple. You worked an hour and made $10, and now you're about to buy a Starbucks drink for $5. Is that drink worth 30 minutes of your life? And some people, there's no right or wrong answer. Some people would say, absolutely. I get so much joy out of this drink that I would give up way more than 30 minutes of my life to get this. And some people would say, absolutely not. I don't want to spend 30 minutes doing this job that I don't like just to have something to drink. I'll go drink water for free or something. But that's the premise of that book. And it's like, are you getting enough value out of this thing to justify what you gave up to get it? Whether you worked for the money or someone handed you $10 or whatever the case is. And that's where I'm at with the vehicle purchase, because I have a fully functional car. It's getting a little up there in mileage. It's not ideal for me, but it's mine. I own it. I literally don't need to do anything to it. It doesn't have any problems. I'm not in a desperate space where I'm like, I need a car now. It's just a want. But it's a strong one. It's been something I've been thinking about a while. And, I've saved money and I've prepared for this. Like I was planning to trade that car in probably like at least 2 years ago, maybe more with the mileage and stuff, but it's just been great. And I just haven't had a reason to. And some of it comes from just like how easy it is to not do something, as we're going to talk about here with you Apple Podcast people. But some of it is just like, it's a lot of work to go figure out a car that you want and to get something and then to negotiate and then to do the fees and then to do the swap-a-roni. And it's just like, ugh. And I'm finding that out now. And that took a lot of my week this week trying to figure these things out. And I'm still up in the air. I'm going to go look at another vehicle tomorrow, I think, after we go to yard sales. I'm actually recording this Friday night, by the way. You're listening to this on Sunday. About to do the Patrons Only podcast, or live stream, which if you want to join, links down below. Join us on Patreon every Friday night. We do a live stream there. But speaking of people that support us or don't support us, let's talk about these Apple Podcast listeners. Disappointed, guys. Very disappointed in you. and I know you're listening right now, at least 300 or 400 people are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, and they've listened consistently for many, many weeks, maybe over a year now. Last week I put out a plea to you guys, and I said, you know what? I put my heart and soul into this podcast. Every week I take the time and I upload this to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all these places. So if you want to listen to this on the go and you don't want to have, using your data on YouTube, or you don't want the video part of it, it's just more convenient for you, you can listen to it there. There's no ads. I don't get paid for doing it. There's nothing outside of me putting a little bit of time into getting it set up so you have that convenience. Last week I asked you guys to do me a favor as like a way to repay me, if you will. I don't ask for anything outside of that. Just leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Rate it and leave a review. I didn't even say like leave a 5-star review. Just rate it and leave a review. Out of you 300 or 400 people that are currently listening to this right now, and I know you were here last week doing the same exact thing, 3 people left a review. And I'm just disappointed. I know, like, I'm learning very quickly that you really can't expect much from people on the internet. Like, I feel the same way now. Like, I feel bummed out in the same way that I felt when I looked at the numbers on the contests that I was doing. It was kind of the same ratio. 1% of people participated in that. 1% of people participated in leaving a review. And it's just like, wow, man, like it literally takes like 30 seconds. And again, it's not like I don't really care if you like, it doesn't benefit me. Like, I'm not doing it to make money or to like promote the podcast, because no one finds my podcast outside of this channel. It's just like, it was just a way to feel appreciated. And I think all of us in life, in some way or another, want to feel appreciated for our work. And I had some people, like, I think one of the reviews, if I bring it up here, if I could find my phone, one of the reviews said, don't even worry about the feedback. I'm paraphrasing that, but I'll look it up here and we'll read it. Since they took the time to leave a review, I'll read it. If I could even find missing pieces on here, because it's so hard to find since we don't have any reviews. I'm kidding. But let me bring it up. It'd help if I turn my Wi-Fi on. I put my phone into airplane mode so you guys aren't getting all kinds of dings and beeps and stuff in your podcast as you're listening on Apple Podcasts for free and enjoying it like crazy, but then not. I'm not bitter. You're bitter. Let's see here. This is, oh my gosh. We might have got another one. We got 4. I'm going to read this newest one too. This is, don't get discouraged. Keep going. This says, this is from King Julius 1174. Thank you so much for taking the time in a place where no one else did. He says, hey Greg, just wanted to say I enjoyed your episode this week, but just wanted to encourage you, even if people don't leave a review or comment on your YouTube videos, know that you're still making an impact on someone's life in one way or another. Don't get discouraged or feel like no one cares about what you have to say, because there are people who do. Keep going and keep grinding. You got this. Oh, and he has a comment here too about collecting and hoarding. In regards to your collecting and hoarding question, I'm more of a collector. I collect Lego, Funko, action figures, or even figurines and sports cards as well. Actually, I just got back into collecting sports cards. Oh my God. I used to collect them when I was a kid, and I would trade with my brothers. Really good memories made. I had to calm down. And Lego collecting, as you said, it can get a little unhealthy if you're not careful. One of the week, me and my wife paid off our vacation, and we're going on in June. We're going to Orlando and Disney for our 4-year anniversary. Sorry for the long review. Don't you dare apologize for review, dude. Thank you, King Julius, for that. Me and you, we're like in the same boat here, getting into the sports card collecting. But man, you just brighten my whole day, dude. I'm not going to get discouraged. I've learned that it's very hard to motivate people to do something when there isn't some type of big payout, right? Like, I bet if I said last week that I'm going to give a free Lego set to one of the people that leaves a review, it's probably been dozens of reviews. Like, I guess you gotta bribe people. I thought it would be enough just to be like, hey man, I do this for you every week. I mean, it doesn't take me an incredible amount of work to put on Apple Podcasts or whatever, but it's like, I do that for you guys, and I'm just like asking for something in return. At this point, I don't want you to leave a review, because like, I feel like it's forced now. Here's what I'm not going to do anymore. I'm not going to ask for it. It's like, if someone wanted to, and people have, they can, but it's like, it doesn't really make a difference. I feel appreciated on YouTube. And that's important to me. Like, you guys leaving the feedback that you did, I think that's just awesome, man. Like, this whole episode, like the whole first part of this episode was your responses to a question that I asked. I mean, I think that's awesome. And you guys are so well spoken. First of all, very well written comments. And you had a lot of insight into this whole topic. And that's what I dream about. Because I don't want this just to be a one-sided thing. Like, I listen to podcasts where it's just the person kind of talking about whatever it is. But I love it when there is some type of feedback or you get the people involved, because it just makes it so much more of an interactive experience and way more interesting, at least in my perspective. I know it's very easy to kind of just consume something and, just move on with your life. That's the easy thing to do, and I get that. That's fine, but just know that regardless if it's a podcast, a YouTube video, whatever it is, if you can spend just a little bit of time, and I've talked about this before, and this isn't just about me, this is about anyone, and this is what I try to do. If you can spend a little bit of time leaving a comment for somebody, replying to someone's message that they send you on Instagram, whatever that thing is, something that's going to take you no time at all, that can have a profound impact on someone's day. Like, wow, he replied, or wow, thank you so much for leaving me a nice comment, especially for people that don't get a lot of comments, like getting that comment when there's like 2 other comments and you're like, dude, I loved your video. I liked what you did there. Man, that can really make someone feel good. So just think about that as you progress through this online space where you're on social media. When you see someone's post on Instagram, leave a like, leave them a comment. It can really mean a lot to somebody. Feeling appreciated, I think, is something that we all want to feel. We don't want to be hoarders, but we do want to be appreciated. And I think that's where I'm going to leave this one. I do appreciate all you guys, whether you left a review or whatever on Apple Podcasts. I do appreciate you guys watching. I'm going to keep uploading my stuff there. I love the idea that I have a podcast. I'm flattered that 300 or 400 people want to listen to it. It's really cool. There's a lot of people that watch this on YouTube as well, which is great. I gotta count my blessings more so than look at the reasons why I should be sad about people not engaging. But I think that's just the way it is across the board. People just this is a place of consumption. The world is a place of consumption. We consume. We don't often give back, which is, I guess, what we should try to focus on a little bit more. And I'm speaking for myself too. And I'm thinking of various ways in my life that I could do that to not only make other people happier, but to make the world better off. So that's I think maybe the ultimate good that people can do is try to leave the world a better place than when you got here. And I think our generation, this young generation that's coming up right now, I think we're going to make up for a lot of the mistakes that the older generations have made historically. I think we're going to be the ones that fix a lot of the problems that we see. Leaving you guys on that. That's getting deep here. Hope you guys have a glorious week coming up here. If you would like to participate in the conversation, I would love to have it. If you have something profound, I keep using the word profound. If you have something that you would like us to talk about next week, something that maybe I could give my thoughts on and throw it back to you guys, that maybe it's out there, it's something wild. Throw it out there. I love that kind of stuff because it's like that. We could take this conversation wherever you want to go. And as fun as it is to hear about my week and the stuff that happened this week, which was, obviously searching for cars and just getting bogged down in that. Oh, Cody hit a deer too this week. I'll talk more about that next week as we have more information on it. She's fine. The truck, it wasn't so fine. It was a hit and run accident. The deer didn't really run that much afterwards though. But thank you guys so much for putting up with me and tolerating this week's episode of Missing Pieces. If you would like to support this podcast, best way you can do it, feedback. If you want to support us on Patreon, that's amazing as well. I do have to go though because I'm about to do that Patreon stream. So I hope you guys have a glorious week and we'll find you in the next Missing Pieces.